Hello everyone. This is what I'm calling a 6-month impressions video for the Bauer uh, lathe from Harbor Freight. Um, I've had the lathe for more than 6 months, but I'm calling it a 6-month review or 6-month impressions because I just want to share thoughts on probably what is actually about 3 or 6 months of actual turning. And because of the close quarters, I'm shooting this in kind of like a wide angle lens, so it may look a little funny, but the bottom line is really this is a great lathe for the money. It really is a solid lathe, especially for a beginner, and it really just delivers good value. So to start off with, it's heavy, it's rigid. You know, just everything just feels solid. It's a nice, I think that's a 1-inch tool post. It's a nice, heavy, rigid banjo. Slides around, decently easy. It does hang up a little bit, but it's nice and big. And once this is locked down, really, it does not move. So same thing, the tailstock quill. Once this is locked down, everything's is solid. Fits pretty nice. In terms of kind of the finish and whatnot, when I first got it out of the package, it had some sharp edges and things like that. So, just be careful. As far as the headstock, again, it's solid. I like how easy it is to change belts. That's done by flipping that up. And then there's another door down here. And this screw right here is loosened to loosen tension on the belt, and then the belt can be moved around. So that's pretty easy. These two little access doors make it pretty easy. Spindle lock is back here, and there's a little bit of play in it, but I've seen worse. So you can see, like, there's a little bit of play there. So I'm not really sure where that is. It really kind of, I can see that thing moving back. I don't know if you can see that, but zoom in a little bit. Just kind of see how that moves as I rotate the hand wheel. Anyhow, small detail. If you're looking for real high precision on that, I've seen worse, but I've seen better. Hand wheel is fairly small. I guess it's okay. I mean, I almost wish that was a little bit bigger. I imagine I could probably, make a bigger one if I wanted to. Yeah, variable speed. I do find that the actual speeds are lower than 60 and higher than 35, 50. So really it goes a little bit higher and a little bit lower than what it reads here. Maybe I'll have to plug it in. That's the slowest speed right there. So right there, it's settling in at about 50 RPM, and it's advertised at 60. So, you're going a little bit slower. I'm not going to do faster, but I think it's the same thing. Like maybe it goes 50 or 100 RPMs faster than what it says on the sticker. So fairly pleased with that speed range. I mean, that is very slow, which is, I'm sure comes in handy. I don't really do a lot of fast work that I've hardly ever used this high gear. I maybe have used it once, but usually I'm in low for roughing bowls, and then I medium for spindles and whatever else. I'm not doing pens or anything like real small, but that I think that is, that's a pretty good speed. The motor is decently powerful. I find if I'm pushing the limits on the swing of the lathe with a bowl blank, I absolutely can slow it down and feel it bog down. But that's really if I'm getting probably a piece somewhere in 11, 12 inches, something like that, where I really start kind of noticing that I can slow it down. So it certainly could use more power, but it doesn't, I don't know. It's not bad. It doesn't feel like super underpowered. One thing I will say about this speed range is I kind of wish this lower range would go up to about 1,000 RPM. That's just like good for bowls. Like a lot of times if I'm put an unbalanced piece of wood on here, I'll start 200 or 300 RPM and kind of work my way up as the bowl gets round and more balanced. So then I'll just hit that 720, but usually I don't want to go, if it's like, relatively big bowl, I don't really want to go up into this middle range because I'll lose torque. So I end up staying down here, which then means that I'm, sticking around that 720. I think it's a little higher than 720, but you get the idea. Like it'd be nice to kind of go up to like 1,000 in that first lower speed range. So again, minor gripe, just something I've noticed. Another like kind of big thing I've noticed that, just as I'm working, I want to show you how quickly this gets up to speed. So I'm in the low range on the belt position. So it should go up to that around 720 RPM. I'm going to turn this all the way up and turn it on just so you can see like how quickly, I'm hoping with the chuck on here, you'll be able to see like how quickly it gets up to speed. And right there is the maximum speed. So 800 RPM is what it goes up to in the lowest range. So you can just see, like, I didn't count it, but that to me feels like a long time to get up to speed. Maybe I can do it again. So So that took 11 seconds to get all the way up to spool up to the fastest motor speed. Again, 11 seconds doesn't sound like a long time, but it feels like a long time. So in those times where I'm taking a cut and then checking it and taking a cut and checking it, like it just seems like it takes forever to get up to speed. I really do kind of notice that, and I think that might be one of the bigger differences between this and like a really nice lathe from one of the bigger name brands, in terms of operation. So that's kind of like the basics. A few things as far as, I mentioned this is a pretty heavy lathe. I currently have this, bolted to this stand that I made for it. And I don't know what size, I can't remember what size these fasteners are. They go into the bottom to bolt it down. But for the size of the lathe, they're not very big. And they come up like right here. So there's just not a lot of meat in that casting around where that bolts on. And see if I can zoom in a little bit. On this other side, you can kind of see where that's flaked up or coming off, and that is because I put a bolt that was too long in there, and it pushed up and actually kind of broke out on the top side. So that's right where that mounting bolt is. It's just, in my opinion, that's just too small for this lathe. So if you do get one of these and you're going to mount it the way I did, just be aware of that. Make sure you don't use fasteners that are too long, because it'll break right through just like that one did. The other thing I want to talk about, this is actually the second one of these lathes that I've gotten. The first one I got had kind of like a casting defect or something. It looked like the casting had been dropped and had like a huge dent. It actually looked like, I think it happened after paint, but so that was just kind of like a workmanship thing, I guess. That kind of bugged me. But the bigger issue with the first one, and why I ended up returning it, was the motor had some kind of issue with electronics, and I made another video of that, so I'll either link it below, or just look in my feed for that video if you're interested. But it had some kind of issue where I'd be turning and all of a sudden the motor power would just like cut out and the RPMs would drop. And it was this weirdest thing, but something was clearly wrong. And I did contact their customer support, and they just said that it wasn't something that happened frequently, and to return it. Interestingly, now that I think about it, that first lathe that I bought was actually supposed to be a floor model for Harbor Freight, and they sold it to me. And now I'm wondering if like they kind of knew about those defects and kind of like marked it as a floor model, and they weren't supposed to sell it, but they did. So in hindsight, that's probably what happened. I'm thinking that, that they just, that one was supposed to be for a floor model and had defects, and whatever, I ended up with it. The returns process was a nightmare. So first of all, I took it back to the store that I bought it from, and they said, I wanted to exchange it for a different one, and they said that they didn't have any in stock, so I couldn't. So I could return it, or had to try to find a different one at a different store. Now, they also told me at that time, I asked, if I get a second one and it has the same problem, am I able to return it? And they said if I tried to return it again, that I would have to buy their extended warranty, which I didn't buy initially. That kind of like that whole experience kind of irked me a little bit. Because, something was clearly wrong with it. And I don't know, it just seems wrong that they would kind of force me to buy an extended warranty if I wanted to return the second one. But maybe I misunderstood. The other issue I found, so after that, I started looking for stores and that had them in stock. Now, in the Philadelphia area, there was, I don't know, there's 5-6 stores in like, 30 to 40 mile radius of where I live. And all of them said they had them in stock. Like if you look on the website, it said that they were in stock. But if you went to the store, they said they were out of stock. And that was because I was told the reason was because they had to keep one as a floor model that they weren't allowed to sell. So it showed up in the inventory as in stock. However, they didn't actually have any they could sell. So that's like a major problem that they need to fix, in my opinion. Because I ended up just calling a whole bunch of stores. I ended up going out of state to get this one. And what I ended up doing was I started calling around, and I wouldn't tell them that I had a return. I would just ask if they have it in stock. And if they said yes, that they had one they could sell, that's when I took the lathe in and told them they had an exchange. I also originally bought this lathe like very soon after it was released, and that was part of why it probably was difficult to find one. But So, and I got it with a coupon, and they've since raised the price. So, I originally paid a little less than $500 for the lathe. And that does not include, I did not pay for an extended warranty. That was just the lathe. And I believe that price has gone up to, I think it's advertised for about $600 now, as of November 2024. So I just wanted to explain, that whole experience. That was not, not a good experience. But that's partly why, it's a cheaper lathe. I think some of the more expensive lathes, you're paying for some of that customer service for sure. As far as I know, Harbor Freight doesn't really offer spare parts for something like this. There is a Grizzly lathe that's like the same thing, and they have a lot of parts. You can even look at their parts diagram. Like everything looks the same. Like it might be a different motor, different electronics, but I think the actual mechanics, are the same. So like, Harbor Freight doesn't offer a lathe bed extension to my knowledge, but Grizzly does, and there's clearly a place to bolt one on. So, just that's kind of like a nice thing to know. That comes with these brackets, and it's a nice idea. And the problem I have with this is when I'm doing the inside of a bowl, I want this tailstock out of the way. So having this on here means that you can't just remove the tailstock. You can't slide it off the end. So, that's like, I guess, nice to have. There's two of them. There's one I do have one mounted on this side. We're supposed to put all the wrenches and stuff. I don't really use those other wrenches, so I haven't, loaded it up. But I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I'm forgetting. I mean, overall, I'm pretty happy with it, especially for the price. And like I said, there's other vendors that if you look, it's the same lathe. So it's probably the same, probably coming out of the same factory, painting different colors, different decals. They might have different motors, and electronics possibly. That's the only thing I can think of. But I think the actual, physical lathe is the same. I'll end this clip now, and if I think of anything else, I will add it to this. And I'll also try to get a clip of actually turning something, so you can see that too. But other than that, those are just kind of my thoughts after about 6 months of using this lathe. Again, I think the bottom line is like this is a pretty good value for the price, especially for like a beginner. But there's certainly better lathes out there. They probably cost a little bit more, but again, I think my biggest gripe, if I could change one thing about this, I think I would change how quickly the motor speeds up. Like that's just the thing I noticed the most. That's kind of the most irritating. Like I wish it was just a little faster. I mean, again, I timed it was like about 11 seconds, and that was with nothing on here. I mean, if there was a heavy piece of wood on there, then maybe it's slower than that. I don't know, but again, 11 seconds. It doesn't sound like a long time, but it feels like a long time. So maybe that's more typical of the, this is the first lathe I've had that's quite this big. So maybe that's more typical, but seems like when I see on YouTube videos and stuff, the little bit more expensive lathes tend to speed up faster. So again, my thoughts after about 6 months. I guess leave any questions you might have in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks.